Yeah, man. So I want to talk about this gang stalking situation and how it is a conspiracy to murder. Okay? If you're a targeted person, if you're a targeted individual and you're on remote neural monitoring and gang stalkers are attacking you, they know. They know that in time, either whether it takes a year or 20 years, they know that it'll kill you. They know that these broadcasts are not safe. These broadcasts are dangerous. It's harmful. It hurts. It's painful. And if it's painful and it can cause injury, then it can cause death over time. All right. So um, I want to get into a little bit of my story, okay? And there's some things that, okay, so back in the day when I started to figure out what was going on, a lot of people talk about the street theater and gang stalkers following them around and chasing them around. And I did have that in the beginning. I had gang stalkers chasing me around, and it would be five or six cars full of them. You know, it was a bunch of them, and I couldn't shake them. And I'm a hell of a driver, okay? And I was driving around trying to shake them, and then I would, and then here they are again, rolling back up. Like, it was insane. So I couldn't shake them. And there was a day once I started to figure out what was going on, and that these people were doing something that had to do with some kind of gang stalking and hacking and stuff. I still didn't completely understand it. This was roughly 3.5 years ago, when it was kind of still the beginning, all right, and they were really chasing me around and stuff. So in January of 2016, I had six cars full of gang stalkers chasing me around, and I was running away from them. Okay, and I went 20 miles up the interstate and 20 miles back down the interstate and all off side roads everywhere, and the same six cars were following me, and it was more like a high speed chase rather than just following me because I was trying to get away, and they were making sure that I didn't get away. And what ended up happening was I went down a dead end road, and then when I realized it's a dead end, because I just swerved down a side street, it was a dead end. And so when I got ready to come out of that dead end, they were blocking off one side of the road. So I came out real hot, and there was a car coming. And so I swerved to miss that car, ended up hitting the curb, boom, hit a telephone pole, and then the next thing you know, I get out the car, and I got a carload of gang stalkers roll by, and the passenger door opened, and that's when I believe Marcus. That was my second encounter with Marcus. Well, let me tell you the first encounter. The first encounter with the gang stalker Marcus was they were following me around, and so I thought I lost them, and I parked at the Wayfield Foods in East Point, Georgia. It's like right in around in Atlanta, right there where Outkast and Goody Mob are from, and that's where it was. It was right on Headland and DeLoe. I don't know if you ever heard that song where they mention that, but I was at that Wayfield Foods, and I was parked kind of on the side parking lot with some other cars in a row, and I was just trying to gather my thoughts together, and I heard somebody say, he's at the Wayfield Foods, right? And I thought it was coming through my radio or something like that, and I still didn't really understand artificial telepathy. And I look across the parking lot, and I didn't know who Marcus was at the time, but later I learned that I think I learned that that was Marcus, and it looked like they had some sort of tripod thing set up, and this was the beginning of that chase with six cars full of gang stalkers chasing me, and so I zipped out, and he undid his little tripod and jumped back in the car. It looked like he was about to try to snipe me with a rifle or something like that. So next thing you know, I got Marcus is chasing me around, and I've actually got the whole thing on audio recording. I didn't have it on video recording. They had all my devices hacked, and I didn't know what was going on. And I could hear them, what I thought was coming through my radio, but it was really artificial telepathy. And there was a bunch of people involved. And it was in the beginning before I understood everything, and I was running. But I had an audio recorder on the whole time, and I had that. So they were chasing me, and soon other cars joined in, and I ended up all the way up by uh, going up 85, like out towards Peachtree City. I ended up like in Union City, and that's like maybe 15 miles, 20 miles outside of Atlanta, and they were still chasing me. It was about 6 cars of them chasing me, and one was a black Suburban, like a new body style at the time, and one was a black Mercedes, and then several other cars. And Marcus was in a smaller silver car. Um, so I ended up coming back up the interstate, and I ended up on Ben Hill Road, and that's where I went down that dead end. Okay, when I came out the dead end and ended up crashing into the telephone pole, totaled the truck, and I got out, and then that's when they came by, and who I believe was Marcus opened the door, shot at me about 3 or 4 times, and then they rode off. So they kept riding. So, but the cars were coming up and down the street, so I ended up running, and I'm in all through people's backyards and all kinds of stuff, and ended up barricaded in a gas station freezer until the police got there. I had the police come to the freezer that I was barricaded into, where I had stacked drinks to the ceiling, blocking off the door. I was hiding behind all these canned drink cases. And, obviously this is documented with police reports. And I told the police everything, that these people are trying to kill me, and they shot at me, and they're the reason I crashed, and that's why I'm barricaded in the gas station freezer. And they knew I wasn't lying, but I didn't know who it was, and they couldn't find them, so obviously they had to just let that go. But there is a police report regarding that incident, and it was probably 1 or 2 weeks later that I was trying to get out of town. Okay, what happened was my mother and my grandmother thought that I was losing it, because I'm talking about all of this people following me and all this crazy stuff going on. So they had me committed. They went to a judge and they had me committed for a psychological evaluation. It's called a 1013. It's when at least 2 people within your family go to a judge and say, we want this person evaluated because we think something's wrong. So the police came to my house, about 6 of them, and they took me away. They took me to a place to be psychologically evaluated. Well, everything turned up okay, and they let me go. So this was like 10 days later. It would They ended up sending me to a place called Georgia Regional, and it's the main hospital, the main psychiatric hospital in Georgia. And I first went to another place, and it was called DeKalb Crisis Center or something like that. And they sent me to Georgia Regional because I refused to take some kind of medication that was supposed to calm me down or something like that. But I wasn't having none of that shit. So and they ended up letting me go after like 10 days. So I get out, all right, and I get a U-Haul truck. I went and paid and bought a U-Haul truck for a day, and I put all of my things, all of my belongings in it, and I was going to take them. I have a storage building, so I was going to take everything to the storage building, and then I had all my cash on me. It was like I got every money I could get gathered up at the bank and everything, and I think it was probably about I don't know, $3,000 to $5,000. I can't remember exactly. It was stacks of thousands, and I cashed it all out. I had it all in cash on me in fresh $100 bills, and I got it straight from the bank, and I was ready to get the hell out of town. I got a U-Haul, and I was going to put all of my stuff in storage and get the hell out of town, right? So what happened was these gang stalkers started chasing me around again, and they didn't want me to get out of town. So they wanted to put a stop to all of this that was going on with me trying to get out of town with some money and all of this stuff. So they didn't want no part of that. They wanted me to stick around and be murdered, is what they wanted. They wanted me to stick around and be murdered because I knew what's going on, kind of. I kind of knew what was going on and who was involved, and some of the people that were involved, and they wanted me dead. So what happened was they were chasing me around, and I couldn't even get my stuff unloaded at the U-Haul because they had came in. They're driving around the stores. I'm scared to death. I ain't gonna lie. I was like terrified they're gonna kill me. So I'm trying to escape. So I'm going back up the interstate, and I got to. First of all, I done ran from them all night long. All night I ended up way down past Jackson into like Forsyth, I think. I done stopped at the Locust Grove Police Department and went inside, and I'm like, look, there's some people following me. They're like, well, where are they? I'm like, well, they're gone now, but So obviously it's making me look insane. I parked at the Walmart for a while, and I was trying to figure out what to do. I was going to wait for the storage to open back up and then go drop my stuff off and get out of town. So I ended up running some more from them because I thought I seen some of them come into the Walmart parking lot. So I'm dipping out, and I end up like probably 60 miles from Atlanta, 70 miles, maybe 100, I don't know, way down to Forsyth, past Jackson. Um, and these are all little towns, outside of Atlanta to the south side. And so I ended up coming back, and I tried to go to storage one last time, and I couldn't pull it off because they were following me. I done got the police involved a couple times, and they were sitting at this store across the street from the storage. Like, it was just bad. It was real bad. So I ended up coming up to the U-Haul place, and I was going to pay for another day and see if I could get my stuff into this storage and get the hell out of here. So what happened was, as soon as I started to get out of the truck at the U-Haul place, the shots rang out. Plow, plow, plow. This is the second time in like 2 weeks that they've been shooting at me. This time I was hit. All right, so the ambulance came. They took me away to Atlanta Medical Center. Obviously, there's documentation of this being something that happened. I was shot in the leg, and I had to go in the ambulance to the Atlanta Medical Center, and that was the second time that these gang stalkers tried to murder me that I knew of. Okay, and there's some other stuff that happened in the past that I couldn't explain at the time, but I won't go into all of that. We're talking about actual gunshots. That's two police reports, police incidents that involved the police where I was shot at or shot. Okay, and it all revolved around the same group of gang stalkers. Okay, so what happens was I check myself out of the hospital on some Tupac shit because I'm in there like hard to kill like Steven Seagal. These gang stalkers are showing up at the hospital, right? I'm hobbling around. I ended up on the fourth floor. At first I done went outside. I done hobbled all around. I'm on crutches, and I got this backpack where the police brought me my laptop and my phones and stuff out of the U-Haul truck. They brought me my electronics from the U-Haul truck. So here I am at the hospital at Atlanta Medical Center, and I'm hobbling around on crutches with a shot leg trying to get away from gang stalkers. And I ended up barricaded again in the fourth floor bathroom. It was the woman's bathroom of the fourth floor of the Atlanta Medical Center. Excuse me. And they had to come and escort several guys out of the hospital that I believe were trying to murder me. All right. So finally, they had me in this safe room and waiting for. I had called some family members to pick me up, and since all of this had went down, they came and got me, and everything was okay. All right. And meanwhile, I'm peeping out, seeing these same type of gang stalkers, these same people that I have been used to seeing the previous few incidents, right, lurking around and stuff. So it's all meant to terrify you, but ultimately, in my case, they really were trying to murder me, and it has been a conspiracy to murder. Okay, so I got out of that situation. All right, not for long. My mother and my grandmother think this is bad. He's losing it. He thinks people are trying to kill him. Well, obviously they were, but so they go to a judge, and there I am committed again. Again, the police show up. I'm shot already. I'm laying here, can't hardly move. I'm shot, and the police come to take me away. 6 of them again. So they take me to the same place, and again, I ended up in the same place, Georgia Regional, because I didn't want to take their medications. And psychiatric people, psychiatrists and psychologists and all these counselors, they're in the business of people being crazy. So they need you to be crazy. So obviously they're not trying to hear about all of this. Even though I was shot and everything else, and all this stuff was going on, they weren't trying to hear any of it. So anyway, I go to the Georgia Regional, which is the main psychiatric state-run hospital in Georgia, the state I live in, and I stayed there for like 6 or 7, 8 days, something like that. I think it was like 10 or 11 days total again, and I was at the first place for a couple of days before they sent me, and because I was like, hey, taking that shit, I'm not doing none of that shit. So they sent me away. So here I am at Georgia Regional again. All right. At Georgia Regional this time, they weren't hearing that shit either. They weren't hearing that crazy shit is what they weren't hearing. They're like, well, look, this guy's shot. He's he's obviously got a situation going on. So, they had me sit in this thing where it's like a panel of like, it was like a dozen doctors and interns, in the main head doctor of the whole entire state of Georgia, and they were all in this room around this big table, and they interviewed me for a long time, talking to me about everything. And what they concluded was that I have no psychological issues. That obviously, this guy's got gunshot wounds, and he's telling this story that seems to be the truth, and we're going to release him without any psychological issues and requiring no medications. And that's what they did. And so I get out. All right, boom. So, all right, fast forward several months, many months actually, maybe almost a year, and I was settled down, and I was back at home after all kinds of things had happened. And I'm skipping everything because I'm trying to get at these murder attempts. All right, so here I am at my house one day, and I'm not going to use any full names in any of my stuff, okay? But a guy named Casey had, I had messages with him where he admitted that they had me on, they were accessing my remote neural monitoring, and him and another guy, Robert, and another guy, James. And James is the guy I've always talked about, who was the main gang stalker on my channel most of the first year. Okay, and he admitted, and I have these messages, and this is good evidence for me, but he admitted that they were involved and that they had me on neural monitoring and whatever. So anyway, even now, these gang stalkers that are on my channel, Marcus and his brother and this idiot number 3, they still use the James voice. They like to use the James voice. James has been off of my channel almost 100% of the time for almost 3 years. But he has popped up now and then a few times. But for the most part, he's been off my channel for almost 3 years. All right? But early or mid to early, probably mid, like June of 2017, a guy named Ricky came on my channel. And he was over here with Marcus and Marcus's brother. And it was the 3 of them. And they were the main gang stalkers on my channel for a while. But this was a time where a lot of the other ones were still coming and going. Excuse me. From my channel. All right. And I had an incident one night where I think it was Ricky. All right. Because he screamed, it was like, fuck you, nigga. Like, and all these old men are saying nigga now, so it's kind of funny, but these guys are in their 50s to 50 to 60 years old, white men saying nigga. But anyway, he says that, and he's supposedly staying 150 yards away, and this is in my backyard, and then shots rang out. So I dive in my house, and there's a police report to document this incident. Okay, not long after that, there was, and I don't know who shot this time, but somebody took some shots and they shot the back of my house, and they shot out my glass door in the back of my house, my screen door, the glass. They shot it out, and the bullet went through the glass and hit my regular door and bounced, made a dent in the wall and went behind my washing machine. All right, and I wouldn't even know that, but the police found the bullet. Okay, they said it was a .40 caliber. They found the bullet behind my washing machine because I called them, and they came out and they investigated the situation. And somebody had shot out my glass, and then it went off the door, and because the door was kind of open, like halfway open. So it went through the glass, hit the halfway open door, then bounced off onto the wall and made like a kind of a halfway hole in the wall, and the bullet was behind my washing machine, and the police found it. All right, so there's police reports of that. That's number 4. That's 4 police reports of me being shot at or shot by this same group of gang stalkers. Okay, now let me tell you another story. There's a girl named Angie, and she pretended to be a targeted person, and she hit me up, and so we were kind of hanging out for a minute, and she asked me to go to this casino. Well, when we go to this casino in Alabama, she also brung a guy named CJ and his girl named Paige. All right, so we go to this this casino in Alabama, and they ditched me in the lobby, and it was a gang stalker place is what it was. And I had a guy that was trying to rob me for my bag down there, and we almost got into it in the lobby, and they ended up making him leave, and they put my bag in the safe of the hotel manager. All right, this casino resort manager put my bag and my stuff in the casino safe. All right, because this was going on, and apparently they knew something was up. All right, but Angie, CJ, and Paige had got a room and ditched me in the lobby because they're gang stalkers and they had their mind control headsets and they were up there doing broadcast stuff. So meanwhile, they bricked my phone. All right, they were hacked into my phone and they dropped the file system out of it and they went to blue screen, and that was it. All right, and it wouldn't work anymore. It wouldn't work. It took me a long time, like 2 months afterwards, I finally got it to reset. It didn't even want to reset into factory reset mode. They literally bricked the damn thing. I should have went about it a different way and tried to figure out how they were on it. But anyway, they bricked my phone. All right. The reason was conspiracy to murder. All right. On the way back, they tried to pretend like they heard a noise. All right. So they stopped in the interstate, not over here in the emergency lane, in the middle, with the ditch and the other side coming the other way. All right, so they stop in the middle. Right, they all get out of the car and they try to get me to get out of the car. Right, I already watched CJ load his 44 in the front seat. He was real nervous. All right, he had a 44 and I saw him loading it with my own eyes. Okay, they tried to get me to get out of the car. I said, hell no, I ain't getting out of the car. You're gonna have to kill me right here in this seat right here. And it was Angie's car. So they were like, well, we just want you to look and see if you could see what's scrubbing under here, right? There's 3 of them, man. I was in the car. There was nothing scrubbing. I didn't ever hear no noise. So the plan was murder. The conspiracy was murder. All right? They had a deal to murder me. And they were going to do that and leave me in the middle of the interstate. That's why they pulled off to the middle. Nobody pulls off to the middle. All right, and these people are grown and they know what's going on. All right, so I knew what was going on too. So even though they bricked my phone so I couldn't call 911, I took Angie's phone because I knew that it was a dire situation. It was do or die to figure out something. This guy's got a 44. I don't want to be shot with a 44. Their conspiracy, their deal is to murder me, and I don't want that. So I took Angie's phone in the back seat. So I saw what mile marker we were at. I took her phone, dialed 911. I wasn't giving that phone back. I got on with 911, told them what mile marker we were at. These people are trying to kill me. This guy's got a gun. Please help me. All right, so they go off the interstate real quick. All right, they pulled into a McDonald's, and I'm on the phone with the police the whole time. Right, CJ and Paige jump out of the car with their stuff, with their backpacks with their little mind control headsets and the 44 meant to be the murder weapon, and they run and jump in the car with some other people and ride out. All right, mind you, we were alone. I didn't know there was any other people with us. We were in another state. None of us live in Alabama, but that's where we were. All right, so the police came. Angie didn't have a license, and CJ and Paige were already gone. And so the police are like, look, there's really not a lot we could do. I don't know what you really want us to do. How about, if you feel like, you can get home now, then how about we just even though she didn't have a license, but this is my way home. I really should have at that point said, no, this is a conspiracy to murder and I need you to investigate. All right. But the evidence stands. I did call the police, so I'm sure they have the 911 call, and I'm sure that they can see that it was from Angie's phone, and I'm sure that with the right resources that could be dug up. All right, and that's what I really need to do. And I'm not even sure where we were, but maybe perhaps if I pursue this, I can get some sort of subpoena for them to dig that up and find out where we were. So obviously, that was a bad situation, and I messed up not pursuing a police report then, which would have probably blown this whole thing open as conspiracy to murder and gang stalking or everything else. Okay, So that's the fifth time where where there was a situation. There wasn't actually shots that rang out, but there was the conspiracy actively pursuing to murder me, and people, gang stalkers that are involved and having guns, and the whole thing working out that way. Okay, so that was the fifth time. All right, that was the fifth serious time. All right, so fast forward some more. All right, then I got all of these kids around my neighborhood. Now, a lot of these people in my neighborhood are involved. Now, I know it sounds like the same thing I tell people, like, well, it's just not your neighbors. That's what gang stalkers want you to think. It might be. It might be your neighbors. And with me, it's not my neighbors, okay, but it's people that live relatively close to me. And I know who they are. Mainly because I've seen them and I know who some of them are personally, and because they've all been trying to murder me since I found out what was going on. So fast forward, I got three of them in the car, stop in front of my house. First of all, they continuously kept coming. They kept parking across the street from my house. Nobody lives across the street from my house. They kept parking in the vacant lot across the street from my house. So they kept coming by. So then they stopped one time and we had some words. And they said, we'll come down to the cul-de-sac and get your issued in. That's what one of them told me. And it's on video and it's on my YouTube channel. All right. And so within a week, I think it was 4 or 5 days later, maybe 3 days later, within a few days later, as I was coming through the trail, there's a trail from a government complex with some government places that there's a little trail, and there's like bus stops, and it cuts out to the main road. If you're walking, it cuts about a mile off of your journey if you're going that direction on foot. So it's just a little trail, not very far, right through from my backyard. It comes out in that complex, and there's a bus stop there, and it comes out to the main road. It cuts a lot of time off of a walking trip. So, but on up in that government complex, it kind of runs next to the neighborhood, and that's where these guys live, over on this other street in my neighborhood. All right, and that's where the same guys that had threatened me like 4 or 5 days earlier, that's where they hang out. Okay, so I'm cutting through the trail one night, and these guys are on my neural monitoring. They're mind control people. They all use their mind control headsets, and that's where gang stalker Emily hangs out, and that's where gang stalker Kimberly hangs out, and then Antoine and some of these other people you've heard me mention. All right, and some of these underage guys, including the ones that threatened me that day. All right, so I'm cutting through there. Bah, bah, bah. About 6 shots rang out, and I ducked off behind a big ass tree. Right, at that time, I got my camera out and I started recording. Well, then another guy opened fire with another gun, and that time it was like 21 or 22 shots rang out, and I could hear them just whizzing by me. They were like hitting the grass and the trees and shit around me. It's like, right? I could hear this shit going within feet of me, right? And I'm like 100 yards away from them in the pitch black woods in the middle of the night. They had no way to know that I was right there other than remote neural monitoring. They had no way to know exactly where I was other than remote neural monitoring. And they're within 2 feet of murdering me with bullets from guns from this guy's house on that street over there where they all hang out. All right, so that's the 5th time with actual bullets. There's also police reports to document that. So that's 5 times, once with me getting shot, all documented with police reports, plus a whole nother one where no shots actually rang out because I was able to get in the way of their attempted murder then, and they probably would have killed me. A 44 at close range, a couple, 1 or 2 shots, probably would have murdered the hell out of me real quick, and that was the conspiracy. So that's, and since then, the police were involved that night, every single time the police were involved. That's 6 times where the conspiracy was to murder, 5 of which actual shots rang out, 1 of those which I was actually shot. All right, and there's police involvement in every single one. All right, and this guy Marcus has been involved from the beginning. And the day I got shot at the U-Haul, I believe that was James. I believe it was James. I can't prove that, and nobody else could prove it that I know of except for them. But I believe that was James. All right, and Marcus is the one I believe shot at me the first time, and was supposed to shoot at me another time. So that's really 7 rather than 6. But not to mention all the other times that they threatened to kill me, and they hacked all of my devices, and since then, and even before then, it's been absolute torture um, with this guy Marcus. So anyway, that's what's going on. I think somebody just got arrived at my house, so I'll get back at y'all later with all of the rest of this stuff, what's going on. But that's what's been happening. That's really what's been happening.